Welcome back to Breaking the Silence podcast, where we have real, honest, and necessary conversations about mental health, emotions, and the things we don't often talk about out loud. Today's episode is very special to us because for the very first time, we have a guest. Today we have Shanice with us. She is a relationship and trauma coach. And Shanice, we're so happy to have you here with us for this conversation. And thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be here with us and to just share your knowledge and expertise with us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes. So, Shanice, we'd love
Thank
for you to
you.
introduce yourself so our audience can get to know you a bit better. So
Mhm.
you can start by telling us where you're from, how long you've been a relationship and trauma coach, and what inspired you to get into this field.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for having me, ladies. And it's really good to be on your platform. It is very, very good when we have young ladies being role models for other women, and not just women in your area, but across the world, because that is what our platforms are for, ideally, to, as
Yeah.
we say in the church space, win the lost at any cost. And so
Hmm.
that is wonderful to see. So thank you for having me. My name is Shanice Layla Bogle, and I am originally from Jamaica. Was born and raised in Jamaica. So I'm a Caribbean girl, island girl, and I am now living in the US, the United States of America, in Georgia. And
Hmm.
I wear many hats, but for tonight's or this afternoon's capacity, we're looking at the trauma and relationship aspect. Now, I have been in this area of service, like we call it, for over 10 years. Way before it was called the trauma, because trauma became a much heavier buzzword or more used during the pandemic. We've heard it being called other things. Before that, I was labeled mental health advocate. And so I was always this seen as a suicide prevention advocate for the different areas that I would serve in. And then later on, it became um, really more targeted towards trauma and relationship. Why? Because
Hmm.
overall, I knew, ladies, from I was a child, that this is the area that God called me to serve in. I knew it. And so, because I had that knowing, everywhere I went, I would execute what was placed in me. And not only that, it was always confirmed. Everywhere I went, people who didn't know me, they would walk up to me, they would, make declarations, the prophetic, prophesy over what,
Wow.
my Lord is going to do. And before I took it seriously, I would laugh sometimes at these people to say, what are you talking about? But in my heart, I knew. And so I did not know it would be this way, but I knew counseling was there some way, somehow. And then later on, it became sharpened and targeted towards trauma. Now, this is the part where it was relative and personal because I grew up with a broken or in a broken family. And because of that, later on, I would learn in my marriage that I entered my marriage in a space unhealed. And so that past trauma became, as we would say, the weapon formed against my own family. And so, because of that, I am a living testimony and very relatable to the truth that unhealed trauma will disrupt and destroy your relationships if they are not dealt with. And so that is how I relate to that space. Overall, the different hats that I wear, some of them are like we're talking about now. I'm a trauma and relationship coach or specialist. That's the area that I specialize in via our signature program called Bye Bye Pain. And Overall, regarding the mental health area, I also zone in on suicide prevention. That is the area I started out in. I'm also a four-time author. Those books can be found on Amazon and the different spaces where books are found. And then I'm an international speaker, so I've been around the different you'd speak like globe, the different four corners of the world where speaking for transformation and real change is also something I'm very passionate about. I also teach on YouTube with my husband when two become one regarding the marriage and the trauma aspect. And also, I'm an educator for over 10 years as well, and of course, above all, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I'm a daughter of the King. What matters more than to serve the Lord with our platforms? Because that is what it's
Yes.
about.
Thank you so much for sharing, Shanice. You are a woman of many hats indeed. And we are super excited for the conversation ahead. Yes. So, for many boys growing up, they're often told, be strong,
Mhm,
don't cry. And you find that this transitions into their adulthood.
mhm,
So, even if they're going through the most difficult situation, they tend to suppress their emotions. So, Shanice, from your perspective, sorry,
mhm,
why do some men struggle with emotional expression,
mhm.
and how does that affect the way they show up in their relationships, whether it be platonic or romantic relationships?
Yes. Very good question. Thank you for that question. In my years of experience, and also as a wife and navigating with my husband, I realize that one of the or some of the main things that impact our men, and starting from they were boys, there are many factors, but I see this a lot that society does not realize that the things that work for women may not work for men. Because a man and a woman, they're different. They are
Mm-hmm.
different. They are wired differently biologically, psychologically, and we may say, okay, they have the same set of emotions. That is true. But how those emotions are processed are different. And so the wiring of a man is different. One example is that the man is a bit he's expected to be more aggressive because of the nature of provider, protector, priest. So he has this predatory kind of wiring. For the woman, we find the nurturing, the homemaker, the wife, the mother, and she is the ease in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, the woman would be more wired for the emotional attachment. The men want that too, but the wiring is different. And so we have things like culture playing a big part in how our men are set up and propped up in the society. They are propped up in a way that there's a lot of expectations and assumptions and not much role modeling. And so, because of that, our men are pushed out there with an expectation, not really remembering that they're also humans who need attachment bonds. And the
Right.
attachment bond is where the safety is. If that male is not attached well, this boy is going to grow up into a man that will not walk in the original design of what he's made to walk in. And so let's run that back a little bit. From
Mm-hmm.
this boy, from he's a child, he needs safety in his attachment style, attachment bonding, namely with his mother, his father, his caregiver. When this child grows up, the psychologists say, show me, give me a child, and I'll show you the man. So give me the child from 0 to 7, I'll show you the man. However, we rear these boys, that's the man they will become. And so with that, we're seeing culture plays a big part in how these men express. We see the wiring emotionally. We realize that society does not give space for a man to speak. My husband would tell me a lot that women don't listen. And he would say that we want men to talk, but when men start to talk, we start to bring forward our assumption about what a man should do, who a man is, who what should he be doing, what should he be feeling. So if we provide space for our men to speak without we are now interrupting and assuming and paving up a conversation, men should also be able to express just as how we are having these conversations. And so, if that is not there, a lot of men will tell you, ladies, that a woman wants safety in ideas. But look at her tone. Check her tone. Check how she's receptive towards what the man has to say. And many times it is not there. So, how do we accommodate the expression of a man? As a woman, they say we're incubators. How do we incubate the safety of this man? If you check a lot of women, a lot of us are wounded. A lot of us go into relationship with past wounds, and so we have the different parts. The man was not attached well. Society says he's this kind of man, he should be this. And when he meets a woman, a lot of times that woman is not able to be a helpmeet for that man. What does the man do? He shuts down, he steps back, he acts like, he's just predator versus prey, and he moves on in life because that is what society allows him to be anyway. So there are many factors that affect why a man does not express, but at the same time, those are some of the main things I see: culture, attachment bonds, and the type of person they end up being with that foster or dampens that growth.
Wow, that's deep.
So when we talk about the behaviors, I tell people all the time, we cannot assess whether men or women, we can't assess the genders or the gender roles with just looking at the behavior without going back to the root causes. There's always what we call in counseling the root or origin of the injury. There is always that. A man has the same set of emotions that a woman has. Remember, we talked about that the expression of this may be different based on how the roles are construed. But if he can love, the woman can love. If I am upset, he's upset. If he can show anxious behaviors, she is also anxious. God did not give him a new, unique emotion that a female don't have. What is the difference then? It is the socialization and the attachment style. People don't know their partner's attachment style and they don't know theirs. What we want to know is love language because it sounds
Mm,
cute and everybody wants to run after the love language. But,
right.
yeah, but and I say this all the time, Cassie and Rochelle, that the attachment style is what we need to be looking for in our partners. How were you modeled in terms of how was love modeled for you? Were you securely attached to your parents? Or were you
Mm-hmm.
disorganized in attachment? Were you anxiously attached? Or were you avoidantly attached? Because those are the four main categories, and we see this in our boys and our men. We see it, but we don't have a language for it. We don't have what is this called. And so some of our behaviors, we're going to use the attachment model. Our men a lot of times are avoidant. They don't want to face the problems, the struggles, the flaws, the criticism head on. A lot of times they want to just suppress and they don't want to hear anything that may sound negative, sound like they're being blamed. And if you bring across something to a lot of men, how they express the displeasure, you wonder if you are telling them they're going to be sentenced for life because the anger, the wall of defense sometimes, and you have some that are hypervigilant. They're flat. They are emotionless. It's like you're talking to
Mm,
a piece of log. They don't respond.
mm,
They don't engage in conversation. They don't ask probing questions. And these are the men that a lot of women are frustrated with. Then you have the hypervigilant men. So the behavior patterns, they are hot-headed. In the Caribbean, we say they easily pop off, crash out, because these are the anger, the tantrum throwers. The ones who want really a mother's reconnection and not necessarily a partner. A lot of where men want to be healed from that mother wound, they're not ready for a partner. But they go after women and have these wounds and end up displaying these behaviors: the anger, the shutdown, the oscillating between the two, the avoidant, the fight, the flight, the freeze, and you have men fun as well. The overcompensator, the one who is the savior complex of every woman. He needs to be praised, so he's promiscuous. He goes out, he runs the road because he needs to be validated. As I said before, or men are displaying the same emotional needs, but it looks different. So the
mm,
validation, we feel like, oh, men don't want validation. If they do, the behaviors are screaming this, but it looks different. Most times, when you see a dysfunctional man, an emotionally unavailable or emotionally dysfunctional man, what is happening is that there is always a trade off. There is always a trade off. Something was taken, something was not experienced. And so when that is taken, he gives off what we call the protector part. Something has to come up to keep this man in survival mode. He has to live. The number one aim of the body and the brain is to self preserve. So if they are self-preserving, but something was taken, let's say innocence was taken, or nurturing um, skills were taken, what is now leading this man? Anger, the protector part, because he has to live and something needs to be in the driving seat. So what a lot of women need to really ask themselves about their family members, their partners, what or who is in the driver's seat of this man?
mm,
Who's turning the wheel? Fear, anger, because most times these are secondary behavior patterns and emotions. Something
mhm,
else, the core need is there. Any woman who conquers a man has found the need of that man. Any woman who conquers her relationship and she's running her home and this man is at her mercy, that woman has found what that man needs. I want to establish that every man or woman has some kind of challenge that they are facing. The difference is, especially when it comes down to the emotional or mental aspect, is the functionality of that person. So they say if you are mentally well, it means you are a functional member of society, right? So you are
mhm,
not on one end of the spectrum too much. You are in the middle, you're neutral. There's a balance. Now, with trauma or emotional impact, with wounds that are not healed, what this looks like is that this person is hijacked. So if the man is healthy, he is not hijacked, he's functional. And you want to look at things like, okay, is there a balance in authenticity and purpose and directive in life regarding there is nothing being depleted either in the hyper or the hypo? So those are the two areas you want to look at in the man's life to say this is a healthy man. He's not too hyper and he's not too hypo, which is
I
flat
see.
versus high. He's in the
Mhm,
middle. When it comes down to even nervous system healing, these men or a woman, because we don't want to say that we're picking on the men, a person who is healed is not lacking of problems. But this person can be stretched and come back into the right shape. So we have the break when it's time for break, and then we have time when the break needs to be lifted. So you don't need a perfect life. to be healthy. And you don't need a life that is lacking of trouble to prove that you're healthy. That's not what healthy is. It's how best you can navigate healthily, functionally through the highs and lows of life. And that is a healthy person.
Okay, so we're going to get or go a little deeper, and we're going to talk about something I'm sure a lot of persons in or a lot of persons watching would want to hear about. So, Shanice, why do patterns like infidelity or emotional distance show up? And what's really going on beneath the surface when they do?
Mhm.
Sorry.
And so that's what's going on with the patterns of infidelity and distance. Let's start by saying that's a very good question. You know, people think that unfaithfulness or infidelity is the number one reason that couples have problems, and it's not.
Really? I thought it was.
But it's actually so that in relationship, it's actually finances is the number one reason people break up. Money.
Okay.
So because a lot of people, and this is where it comes down to, a lot of people will actually endure because of personal reasons in terms of, let's say, like unhealed wounds. So identity problems, identity confusion, fawning, believing that the savior complex will come in and the person will change for them. They'll stick around, especially a woman. We are wired differently. Some men too will stay. It's not just a woman, but the number one reason is the finances. I wanted to put that out there that infidelity
Thank you for putting that out there. Now I know.
it gets a bad rap, and it should. It should. But is that money? Is that money? But let's go back to the infidelity. That pattern again. Infidelity. Years ago, I learned that infidelity is home to a lot of people. Infidelity is home, and the brain and the body they go home, even if that home is toxic, even if that home is not ideal, because infidelity is not ideal. It destroys lives. It's like death. Why is this occurring? First of all, we can start with the spiritual, where the Bible says that the man is driven away or the woman by their own lust. They're enticed and they're driven away by that. So there is that. Now, the pattern of this comes back up with what we talked about, the core need of that person. When these patterns are coming up, these are what we sometimes call the safety behavior. So, someone is not feeling fulfilled, they go home. And the other day, I was talking to a mentee, and they were expressing not being able to break the pattern of infidelity. And what we found is not the fact that they loved intimacy per se. They wanted an area where they were propped up as the man. They wanted to lead something. They wanted to be seen as the head over something. They wanted to be seen, and this was a man, they wanted to be seen as the king of something. They wanted to dominate something. And so that is why I go back to original design and attachment style. A woman must understand her wiring and why she is attached to a man. I had to learn that. I'm not my husband's mother. My husband had to prove to me that you can't scold me into fidelity. A man will listen. My husband taught me this lesson. You act like a man, you are one of the bros. I'm going to stand up to you like a man. I will not hit you physically, but my decisions will be you don't run my show. Every man wants to make that clear to society. You don't run my show. A man is made dominant in terms of how he's biologically wired. He is provider, protector, priest. Priest runs something. They oversee and they override territories. The woman is the easer. She makes life like a coach. She's like a midwife. Yes, you can do it. You can do it. You can win. You can get there. This can be done. If we
Yeah.
understand our original design, then a lot of times it's not that we're to be blamed, but patterns come up when this man does not understand his identity. So you see how many intertwinings there are? It's a,
This is so
it's
complex.
because it's a, and let me just remove the confusion, because ultimately it's the choice of that person who did the act. But why do they
Mm-hmm.
continue to do the act? So many reasons. But some of the main ones are identity. Identity. Because if the identity is solid in what it needs to be solid in, then even if you don't have a Isa and a woman who is in her original design, you will still walk in who you are and who you are supposed to be. So the overview is, what is not fulfilled in this person? What is not fulfilled in the person?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is going to come back around to, can I fill my own cup? Am I satisfied into who I am? I have walked the walk with these things. I tell people that there is never a topic that I end up teaching on or serving in an area that I have not gone through. Because
Experience. Wow.
listen, I don't like talking the talk without walking the walk. And it's not that I go after these
Mm.
things to, oh, I add it to my resume. No, but God, somehow I end up there. So when I tell you, ladies, that ultimately it's going to come down to, the world may be tearing down. Right is right if nobody's doing it, and wrong is wrong if everybody's doing it. It comes down to the integrity and the identity of that person. The integrity and the identity. So Cassie was pointing out that yes, she understands that there are some men who, well, all men are designed that way in terms of they need to hunt something. They need to be doing something. Like Adam in the garden, he has to be busy. And
Right.
unfortunately, this busyness was basically programmed by our forefathers to involve multiple women. And somewhere along the line, the wrong message of power involved subduing more than one females. And so this was not ironed out by the people before us, or forefathers, or role models. A lot of them were not. A lot of men don't have great role models because they attached kingship and kingdom running to multiple females. Now, with that messy
Mm.
message, especially in some cultures, because some cultures do not subscribe to that foolishness. But there are others who subscribe to it. And so,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, a lot of our men, they end up liking it because, again, it's lust. And so it relieves them of certain commitment and accountability and responsibility. It relieves them of that. So why rush to change it? Cassie's saying that yes, she understands that there is that factor that everybody needs time to come into their own. But at the same time, if you know this is so, stay single and do not interfere
Right.
with other people's lives. Because you can't wrong a
Mm.
man for not being ready to give it all up. That's your decision. But leave marriage and commitment and relationship and family building to those men who actually want to be a role model. Do not get involved.
Yes, I
And
agree.
that's a very good ideal picture, Cassie. It's ideal, but the truth is, when you get married, and this is not even just for the men or for a marriage, what I have seen so many times is that, for example, I have a couple, we're supporting the couple through sessions. Infidelity was probably never on that person's mind. There are those cases, which is why when we're in this area of service, we must give grace, compassion, and empathy, because sometimes people end up feeling hopeless and then they fall into things they had put aside. One door gets
Mm,
open, and all of a sudden the pattern and the cycle starts again. So, and again, this is not even just for woman, one wife confided in me one time, and she begged me, Shanice, I cannot let my husband know. How did that door open? The family is suffering financially. Here comes a help, a man who is our friend, and he's providing for the family on the
mhm.
side. So the husband getting money too, and the wife getting money, and the children getting money. And you know how emotional attachment starts, and emotional bond becomes evident, and the proximity makes this man becomes our safe space. They end up.
And the thing is, and the thing with infidelity, it has become so
That's the
normalized
thing.
in our culture.
Hmm.
Like everybody's doing it. So they would want to do it as well because it's so normalized. So I feel like we as a society have a part to play in
Hmm.
it. Some women are accepting
Yes.
of it.
Yes.
That's just the sad reality. Some women are accepting of it.
Hmm. Yes.
Yes, we do. We
Yes.
do.
And I'm glad you said that, because for those men, I always say, get out of the line. Stop pursuing this woman. You are not qualified to get in the line to pursue that female if you have 10 others or even one other. I have one friend who told me that his parent indoctrinated him to say you have one wife and at least one side piece. And he lives up to that indoctrination. He believes in his heart
Mm-hmm.
that this is how a relationship should go, because your wife is the homemaker and the side piece is your burden bearer. And so they have normalized, like Rochelle said, the culture of infidelity, to the point where right now, when I'm working with the younger children, I'm hearing little ones like age 10, age 11, age 12,
Wow. So,
talking about,
oh,
oh, he's
wow.
just a side piece. Oh, she's just a side piece. They are normalizing relationships and having side partners this early. And so, like one of you ladies said, it is all our duty to put a stop, to interrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't stop people, but interrupt the pattern. Speak out about it. This is not the way to go. This is not normal. This is not
You're
right.
right. And we as parents, we need to do
This is
better.
not right.
Can't be raising our kids like that.
My father was unfaithful. My grandparents, my grandfather was, uncles were, and I grew up saying, oh, so the moment I am overwhelmed or frustrated, there's a door, because I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
It If I am unaware and I fell into that trap, I could lay the blame on my upbringing, past trauma, parent wound, father wound, mother wound, whatever. But when I become aware, if when I do it and I hear even one time that this is not right, I am now responsible for that remedy, that situation being
Mm-hmm.
remedied in my life. I can no longer say, oh, but it's fighting me, I'm a slave to it. It doesn't matter. Once you become aware, you're not responsible. Awareness is where it changes. Because, a lot of people say, oh, I know I have a problem. It's not enough. I
Mm-hmm.
know.
What are you doing about
Yes,
that?
I know I'm always angry. I'm easily angry. That's just how I am. But it's not enough. Because your partner coming to you and saying, I know I have a problem with infidelity. Okay, sir. What next? Thank you for being aware. But what is next? Because you're still being unfaithful. So what's next? With awareness, there must be action. There must be action. And so I question people who they are aware, but what comes after the awareness? Because there is no horn to be tooted and there's no victory to be had if your awareness did not propel you into change. That is where the responsibility is now laid on that person or that institution or
Mhm.
that culture. Then,
Right. What resources are available or what services are available so that they can, heal from that
mhm,
from whatever it is that's causing them to be,
right.
you know, cheating or being, yeah.
That's a very good question because listen, I get that question on almost every platform. People are not aware. And I remember even with myself, I like to use myself as an example. When I would get up every day and I was just so burdened and sad and throwing tantrums in my relationship, in my marriage. And my husband would say, something is wrong with you. And I said, no, nothing is wrong with me. Something is wrong with you. And I would blame him, thinking that he is just not making me happy because I put the happiness and the responsibility of how I felt, the security I felt in his hand.
A lot of
Yes.
us do that.
We just feel like we don't have the right partner, and then this catches a lot of people. They just move from one person to the next, because it's the person. It must be the partner.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then all this
Right.
time it
Yeah.
was.
Mhm.
And so the awareness comes in when, if any, ladies, gentlemen who are listening, be deliberate in your human growth. It is one thing to heal a wound. The wound will heal. You will process a wound, but the internal schema and the internal mapping and the mindset and structure of life is still there. When this is still there, guess what? You will still do the same things, whether or not you're aware.
Mhm.
If you are listening now, this is one way you know. This is one way you know. And then when you know, go out and tell another. And when you hear your partner saying to you, so how do we know things about ourselves? We listen to what people are saying to us. What are the things that people are saying about us? The other day, somebody said to me, oh my God, you look so relaxed in this photo. You look like you're playful, unlike the person I knew all these years. And I was like, what? So you want to tell me that all these years I thought I was bubbly, but the people knew me as stuck up? It cut. But at the same time, I look back and I was like, oh my God, it's true. Self reflection. So, this is why I'm saying, people, be deliberate about the information you're getting. Sometimes it hurts you when the partner says, listen, you talk too much, or you have no manners, or your tone is off. Listen, reflect, take it as information. Information, and then do what I call behavior map and track. Start to behavior map and track.
Mhm.
How do I process when I am embarrassed? How do I navigate when I lose or fail? How do I process when I win or succeed at something? Begin to sit down and analyze. In counseling, we call it interocepting, deep scanning on the inside. Too many of us are just moving along in life. We're just moving. We're just moving along. No scanning, no reflection, no deliberate check-in and growth. We check our boss's stock. We
Mhm.
check our workplace cash registers at the end of the day. We do auditing for the people's company. We do auditing for our coaching business. We do auditing for this, for that, for online or followers or clicks or likes. Where is the auditing for your personal life?
A lot of us here are guilty of that. We're the
We
last,
are
the
the
last thing that we think of. That should actually be the
the
first
first.
choice. Mm-hmm.
So I implore everyone that I know, there are some things that we will never know until somebody say it to us. But if you are under the sounding of our voices tonight or whenever this episode drops, begin to do self-reflection. Listen to what people are saying about you, behavior map and track, and of course, reach out to Cassie, reach out to Rochelle, reach out to myself, send a DM. In this day and age, everybody knows mental health, mastermind group, healing from trauma, emotional wellness. Do the work. Start, reach out. Miss, ma'am, I don't know if I'm wounded. How do I know if I'm affected by trauma? I have a free document on my website. You can get it. Cassie, Rochelle, they can help you. They can help you. Because let's go back to the example. When I heard that, immediately, Cassie, I went back to what do I know about myself? Remember, you don't always know everything about yourself, but you go back to your personal patterns. Was I this way for real? Show me the proof. This is asked a lot with rejection wound. Show me the proof. And so with even this, what people are saying, and you can't worry about what people think about you, that is true, but go back to the proof. Now, I can give you multiple statements that my partner has made in line with that comment. And so if I'm hearing it so many times, there is some Jamaicans would say if it doesn't go like that, it nearly go like that. So so it may not be that, but it goes that way a little bit. So go down that road. And I would tell my mentees to walk it out. Think it to the end. Don't just hear it and react. Now begin to reflect,
Mm,
analyze. Can you find examples of this being true? If it's a yes, all right, then what was the scenario? What was the event? What was your behavior? What was your action? What was your thought pattern? Then what is the end result?
times, times, because of how your brain is wired, even if you see it, or because of your past experiences, even if you see it and you do that reflection, you may still not see what is wrong with what you're
That's true.
doing. So is it a where you have to speak to somebody else and ask them, am I that way for true? Somebody that you're close with and you liaise with on a daily basis, you
Mm-hmm.
communicate, you go out and you ask them. Or it might even mean seeking professional
Mm-hmm.
help, because sometimes on your own you just can't seem to see why the person is saying that what you're doing is
Yes.
wrong.
That's a very good point because there are times when I have a statement that was made and I'm walking it through. I'm going down to the end. I'm looking at the patterns, I'm looking at the examples, the events, the scenarios, and I'm saying, okay, I see the similarities. This seems like it's true. It's going to turn out to be true. It's going to turn out to be a fact. And then I go down the road and I get a mental block. Like don't know no if I should grab this because this was something that was projected to me in my childhood. Is it really me versus what was given to me? And that is where I would pause. I tell people, don't be quick to run to outsource in the first goal because you want to build that path back to inner safety. You want to be able to trust your own voice. You must hear your voice and know it's you. You must hear your. Do you know how many people, Cassie, who hear and don't know when they are actually speaking in their own life? They are quicker to hear the noise. They don't know how to establish their own voice. And that is where you have a lot of, you can't trust yourself. Decision making is, you need somebody to give you, tell me what to wear. Tell me what should I do? Should I take that job? It's always a codependent kind of tug, push, tug of war. So going back to what I like to do, my phone, I have a note section that is very active. So when I open the notes in my phone, I sit down and I take into real life what the Bible said, be still and know. So I
That I am God.
sit down in stillness and I said, Lord, I'm stuck right here. I'm walking it out with you. Show me what I'm not seeing. Fill in the gaps for me. I really genuinely don't see how this is connected to that. And if it is that He wants me to connect with someone, Lord, if I should connect with someone, show me who I should connect with. Or show me some kind of content or something in the Word of God that actually confirms this pattern. And best believe it, when I'm writing down, I would hear in my spirit, so and so and so. This is the other day the Lord really pointed something to me. Is I hear the Holy Spirit say, why do you think you keep saying yes to things that were no? Were supposed to be a no. I'm washing the dishes and I'm searching in my soul. Soul searching. I'm saying, Lord, so many things I said yes to in life. It should have been a no. Why do I
Mm.
do that? And just focusing on why do I do that, Lord? Why do I do that? I'm washing the dishes, ladies, and just out of nowhere, I hear it confirmed because your dad left and you don't want to let go another relationship. You're doing this because of what
Wow.
you lost with your father. And
Mhm.
so every no for a man that you told yes, that was supposed to be a no, you're saying your brain and your body saying, I cannot afford to be the blame of another relationship. Because a child is going to blame themselves for a relationship being lost in childhood. The parents gone, the mother gone, father gone. It's me. It's my fault. It's not them, it's me. That's how children internalize. And so that internal mapping is still alive. It's still active. It's me. They're going to leave for me. So, how do I not let this happen again? Once the relationship is being threatened, say yes. Let them stay. Keep them. So, I like to go in stillness. I like to activate my notes. I like to also have my notebook. I have my notebook. So I like to go into a moment of stillness where I am really intercepting, spend time with breaking down. In your experiences, the answers are there. And I know you can get confused. And if that is still not working, Rochelle, then you begin to say, okay, who specializes in this area? Because one of the
Mhm.
things you don't want to do is you have a trauma wound, then you go to a talk therapist because that's not going to really help. They will help to a certain degree, but a trauma wound is dealt with differently than an imprint. They're really different. So you go to the person. Let's say it's a coach for anxiety. You wouldn't go to somebody who does dental work because that area of specialty is not there. So you're going to now zoom in. Okay, I know this person who does trauma and relationship. Let's zone in on that support. Why do you think this is so? And now the outsourcing is now bringing clarity. I do believe that there comes a point when you need somebody to walk you through it. Because obviously, the things that they or we teach, we don't have it personally to put a language to these patterns and processes. It's not just something
Correct.
to out of the hat. You're going to need professional and informed help. But before we get there, a lot of times we run too quickly without really building back the trust of our own voice and the voice of God. And that's
Mm.
where we have to start.
I love that. I love that. So you touched on faith, but how can community support the healing process in both romantic and platonic relationships?
Oh, beautiful question. Love that. Listen. Oh my gosh. Community is key. When you are going through and you have a set of people, even if it's one person that you can call on. In counseling, we talk about having someone who is not afraid of your dark days. Because when you are healing, especially in a relationship, you need people who are not afraid of your dark days. You need people when you are fighting and cursing and tussling and giving up and hopeless. The people are saying, we have your back. I remember a time, ladies, when my husband and I we met in an accident, and it was so bad that I felt like I was going to be husbandless because the accident was bad. And when our community came in the home, they ensured that the baby was taken to a few days to get the baby off my hands. They ensured that the dinner was prepared. They ensured that I went to the hospital to be by his bedside. They were there. When
Wow.
people are struggling on their own, this is why a lot of times people self-harm.
Mm.
Why a lot of times relationships that could have been made better break apart. Every relationship, ladies, go through harmony, disharmony, and then repair. Unfortunately, a lot of times by the time it meets disharmony, a lot of couples don't have that support to say this is not dead. And even if it was dead, all hope is not lost. I have a friend, every time she throws out her husband's clothes to say it is done, the community, her friends came and said, listen, take up the clothes and bring the clothes back in the house. The clothes would always go back. His outfits would always find their way back in the house. When he was up there saying, listen, I'm done with this woman, they were there with the woman on the phone, like, no, he's not done. You go back in that room. You go back and talk to him. You go back. There were moments when I did not want to hear anything about prayer and the word of God. I was like, God, I'm done with this marriage. I'm done. And you know who I had on the other end of the line? Four ladies. You're not done. You're not done. You're not done. It is not over. Marriage is a covenant. You can heal.
Mm.
You need a counselor. Let us pray with you. Put the go and talk to your husband. Shaniese, go and anoint your husband's head. Ask him for forgiveness. Say you're sorry. Take accountability. Because my perspective was kind of limited. I thought he was the problem. And I couldn't
Mm.
see myself. And so the other lens, the other people, the faith-based or the people of sound counsel. The Bible talk about wise counsel, not the people who are telling you, yes, leave him, long time he must go on. I've seen it so much where we can become so religious that every time a marriage has a problem, they think it's time to go. And that's not necessarily true. I have seen both ends of the spectrum. Let me give you an example. I've seen where I am displeased about something. And because my dad left, my mother is very hypersensitive to rejection. So she would advise me, don't complain about that because you don't want him to get frustrated. And I'm like, Mom, that's you. Dad left you. I'm gonna talk in my relationship. So daddy went because now we're over the whole hurt of dad leaving and thing. So I can say to her, I'm like, Mom, dad left you. I am going to speak in my relationship. I'm not going to just sit down and take it because you are afraid of rejection and you are afraid for me to be left. So there are times when people are afraid that you're going to be left, so you stay, or they will tell you, oh, I don't want, because I left my relationship. This is what I think is normal. And you just go. Every time something is bad, you just go. Because I've also seen that where a husband and a wife, they met in some kind of disagreement, and because of the idea that the husband must be the man of God and he should
Mm.
not raise his voice in this house. And how dare you? And you dishonored your home. So, wifey, leave him. And the wife leaves. And now the marriage is broken. Separation. But those people either did the same thing or they are with their spouse and they're giving that ill advice. So you see how you can't navigate off of a person really within reason. within reason. And
Yeah.
yes, and I always tell people the ultimate voice in your marriage is God's voice. You see, when God say go, go. Is when God say walk it out, walk it out,
Mm.
walk it out. So within reason and within what you are perceiving to be, you're not in danger, you're not in harm's way. Outside of that, immediately I would advise, and even as a coach, I am also very careful because there's some people who are facing abuse, Rochelle and Cassie, and you suggest our position is always to salvage that relationship. But there's some people who really need to go, and you can only suggest because they will hear you, but they're not listening to you.
Yeah.
They're not listening. They don't have the capacity to, which is understandable until there is some kind of dire need and they will call back and say, Shanice, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. And to the viewers, whether you are a woman or a man, I have so much I would want to say to you, but the one main thing that I'd want to say, and I hope I can merge two into one, to render your life as too hard to process, to heal, to grow, is to render your life ineffective. Suffering, so the pain that you faced, the programming that you have started out with, we say it all the time, not your fault. You didn't choose this. But you know what is a choice? Suffering is. When you begin to suffer, you've now moved into a space where years, listen, I really want you guys to listen and to take it seriously. We have too many platforms where people come on and we speak. The world is not short of information. The world is short of action. People who are willing to take action. Breaking the Silence is another platform that is here for you to take action. We're not
Yeah.
just here to be another pretty, cute platform where ladies just come on nice and dolled up and educated and experienced. There's no time for that. That's what
Mm.
it's about. Your life is going to be ineffective if you continue to live with these areas that are hijacked by past pain. You will never reach your full potential and purpose and destiny because there is a trade off. Suffering is a choice. And so the prolonged choice of not moving into getting help, seeking support, is what we call suffering. Suffering.
Mm.
And so awareness is great, but action after the awareness is ideal. And that is where you want to move into. Not just to know and to hear, but what are you doing about it? To render your life as being too hard is to say my life is ineffective. And the other thing that I want to close with is, or to end this statement is, stuck is not an emotion. To be stuck is not an emotion. It's a perception. It's a perception of something your brain has met before.
Mm.
And it is now navigating a projected future. It's trying to navigate what it thinks is going to be a predictable future. So there's that clamp and there's that hold. There's always resources and help for you. Reach out because we're here to help you.
I love this. We want to say thank you, Shanice, for being here with us today and sharing so much depth, wisdom, and truth with us. And to our audience, those watching, thank you for being part of this conversation. We hope this episode gave you something to reflect on, something to question, and maybe even something to begin healing from.
Yes.
So, this is Breaking the Silence, where we talk about things that people don't often say out loud. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok at Breaking the Silence underscore 2025. Until next time, take care of yourself. Bye.
Yeah.